Welcome to Novelist Spotlight. This is Mike Consol, your host. Two quick things before introducing you to my guest. First, I encourage you to subscribe to this podcast by clicking on the follow button and also clicking on the bell icon so you are alerted to each new edition of the program. Second, in addition to being the producer of this podcast and interviewing novelists, I am a novelist myself. I've written 4 books, 3 novels, and 1 short story collection. In the episode notes, you will find a short link to my Amazon page and all 4 of those titles. Now, on with our program. In the spotlight are book publicists Gretchen Koss and Meg Walker of Tandem Literary. I mean, what author doesn't want a team working on their behalf to promote the sales of their books, especially when considering that so many authors either lack marketing skills or simply aren't interested in marketing activities? They want to stay focused on what? Producing the art. They don't want to be distracted by business and promotional considerations. But how do book publicists work? What services do they offer? What do they expect of the clients they represent? And what are the financial commitments? Gretchen Koss and Meg Walker have a combined total of nearly 40 years of experience in book publishing and have worked with debut authors and repeat bestsellers and in a whole host of genres ranging from commercial and literary fiction, story collections, to celebrity bios, memoirs, advice, self-help books, narrative nonfiction, including history and politics. So much to cover here. Gretchen and Meg, welcome to the program.
Thanks for having us.
Let's start. Let's not assume that an author listening to us speaking right now really understands what book publicists are all about. Obviously, they know such a species exists, but what do book publicists do? And that's not to say that you two are synonymous with every book publicist firm in the country or the world, but how would you answer that question? What do book publicists do?
I can answer that. This is Gretchen, since I have been doing this for about 150 years now. Book publicists essentially try and get the word out on an author's new book, either in print by book reviews or off the page book features, magazine reviews, podcast interviews, radio interviews, and online coverage. Primarily, that's what publicists do. Meg is a little different. She does she has her own special little talent here at Tandem, which I'll let her tell you about.
Yeah, I mean, the Tandem Literary is a publicity and marketing firm, which makes us a little different from the standard freelance PR firms out there. So Gretchen handles the publicity side of things for Tandem, and then I handle the marketing side, which is slightly different in that I basically help authors with their social media, with marketing to their own fan base through their email newsletters, building up those email newsletters, utilizing their relationships with other authors, building and cultivating those, and then lots and lots of online outreach to influencers, bookstagrammers, bloggers, that kind of stuff.
TikTokers.
Yeah,
TikTokers. Okay. Yep. I've heard that TikTok is the most powerful book promotion of the social media platforms. It's the most powerful. I don't know. Would you concur, Meg, or not?
I mean, I feel like it's growing the fastest at the moment. That's what I would say about it.
And
I
you
think
can't really pitch book talkers, right, Meg? I mean,
no,
it's
that's
kind of an organic thing.
yeah, that's the frustrating part is that even the authors who've kind of been made through TikTok, if you ask them how it happened, they say they wish they knew, right? So it has to happen organically, which is the frustrating part. So I think we've yet, as an industry, figured out the secret sauce to pitching them and getting them to respond to us, and the way that we do with bookstagrammers.
When you say pitching them, who's them? Are you talking about the TikTokers?
Yes,
You might reach
TikTokers.
out to them and say,
Yep.
hey, I can help. I noticed that you're promoting and I can
Yeah.
help you with this. You probably could even, point out some basic mistakes that they're making or ways to amplify the message.
Yeah, but I mean, I think that the issue there is they it's a very organic platform, and they want their own sense of discovery. They don't want to be pitched and feel like they're being used as a tool for promotion, right? They want it is very organic. So when you see a book talker on there like crying over the latest Colleen Hoover book or whatever, like that isn't because the publisher went to them and asked them to do that. It's because it's genuine.
They were genuinely moved.
Yeah.
Genuinely moved. Yeah. Authenticity is what it's all about these days. And I suspect people can smell, the, what's the adjective I'm looking for? They're basically inauthentic.
Yeah.
You know,
Posers.
what did you call that, Meg?
Posers.
Posers, yes, posers. So, how does an author know that he or she needs a book publicist? I mean, not everybody is. Obviously, if you're a big seller, maybe you got there with a book publicist, maybe you didn't, and you don't need one because the books are moving quickly. But I think the question. Maybe I'm going to modulate the question a little bit and ask you, what is the perfect client in terms of it could be obviously anybody who wants to pay and be promoted. You don't turn business away, but at the same time, there's certain authors I'm sure that you would say or models that you would say this is exactly what we're looking for, and this is what our expectations are of you, and we know we can easily see the sweet spot here. You've come to the right people. We see the sweet spot.
Yeah, I mean, to go back to what you said in your intro, as far as like how does an author know they need outside help? I think it's just become what the way we describe it is it's an insurance policy, right? Like in-house staffs have been shrinking for
At the
years now.
at the publishing companies.
Yes, so
They're more and more they're expecting you, the author, to do the work or
The
find
author
people
to
to help
take on
them.
to take on a lot of work, yes, and
Yeah.
that's another reason why authors hire us because they don't want to take on that work. They want someone else to do it for them.
exactly. And I mean, you've invested your blood, sweat, and tears over many years to write a book, and then you want to feel like it's being paid attention to thoroughly and that someone's going to dig deep, especially in niche areas and things that you maybe can't rely on your in-house team to do. And that's not knocking them. Gretchen and I came from there. We very much understand the dilemma of an in-house team because they have so many books on their hands for any given season and only so much attention to go around. So hiring outside help ensures that you have someone who wakes up every day knowing that you sat down at your kitchen table and wrote them a check and that feels responsible to you and can't hide from you, right? Like we can't be like, well, you're not an A title for us or, our window of paying attention to you is over. Like we work for you now and we're going to be out there pounding the pavement. And if the first round of pitches and ideas that we had didn't work, we sit down with you and brainstorm and come up with another idea and another idea, which is also maybe something where an in-house team can't be that adaptable, right? Like they can give what they can give, and it's a kind of a limited scope.
Well, let's talk about that giving. Is it unheard of for an author to go to the publisher, say Random House, Simon and Schuster, whoever, and say, "Look, I'm willing to fork out $2,000 a month for a book publicist, but I want you to put an oar in the water too. How about if you put in a couple thousand a month as well?" Is that just like, look, if we were going to spend that money, we would just directly promote you? And that's just a non-starter, or have you seen instances where the publishing company actually helps foot the bill?
We've seen pretty much every single scenario. In some cases, it's a kind of a higher profile author who maybe is new to the publishing company, and as an insurance policy, the publisher will hire outside help just to kind of reassure that author and make sure that no stones are left unturned. Because as Meg said, when we came from this in-house industry, you've got 2, 3 books a month you're promoting. It's impossible to do everything for each one of them. So hiring outside help ensures that we can pretty much investigate every avenue of publicity or marketing out there.
Yeah. I mean, and as Gretchen said, we've worked in every kind of scenario. I'd say the majority of the time we're hired by the author themselves and they foot the bill entirely. But we've had the inverse. We've had where the house is like, holy cow, we cannot handle the January that we have. We need to
Yep.
farm some of these books out, and they hand them over entirely to outside people. And I currently have a client right now where they're splitting it. So
With the publishing house.
yes, so the author went to them and said, I really want to bring in outside help. I really want the hardcover didn't do what we all wanted it to. It's coming out in paperback now. Um, can we team up and sort of give this the old college try together? And the answer was yes, gladly. So, they're both paying me. So I answer to both of them really. And
So
we've had it always.
and we're talking right now about people published the traditional way, but more and more authors are going the self-published route. I mean, I've had a
Yeah.
woman on the podcast who she was a finalist for the National Book Award, didn't win it, but was a finalist, and wrote
With
what
the
she thought was
self-published
her.
book?
What's that?
With a self-published book.
No. This she was traditionally published, but then
Uh-huh.
what ended up happening is she wrote what she considered the best book she's ever written in her career, and goes to the pub. She couldn't find a publisher, but then
Yep.
over time she realized, I probably. If I keep working out, I probably can find a publisher. But you know what? I'm in my 80s, and I'm not sure I'll live to see this thing published through the traditional route. So she went the self-published route. My point being that some people self-publish because they just don't have the option with traditional. They've been rejected all the way along, so they self-publish.
Right.
Then there's esteemed authors who just decide I'm going to do this one on my own because I'm not, it's apparently too experimental or it doesn't fit a channel at the at my traditional publisher. What do you handle self-published authors at all, and what's the difference? How would you
Yeah.
parse the difference between the self-published and the published author?
I try not to work with too many self-published authors because it is so hard to get them media attention. I had one person in the media say to me, Gretchen, what I have like 8,000 traditionally published authors I've got to find coverage for. I don't have the bandwidth to cover your author that has decided to go the self-publishing route. And I've been finding that a lot lately in the traditional publishing publicity model with, book reviews have gotten so much harder. The Washington Post only reviews 5% of the books that they are pitched. So they're not going to pick a self-published author to review. They're going to, go with someone from the big five.
Hmm.
And it's just working with a self-published author makes everything just a little bit harder.
Hmm.
And so
Really does.
as a result, I try not to take them on
I
Hmm.
try,
because
same.
I
I mean,
don't feel it's fair to the author unless they're looking at something specific, like I don't know, online coverage or something. Maybe we can find some special little niche outlets to work with, but for a full campaign, it's just not worth my time or their money. And I
right.
hate to say that, but it's just the facts.
Yeah,
Hmm.
I mean, so there's lots of traditional media outlets, as Gretchen was saying. I mean, they actually have a policy against reviewing self-published books, right? They don't even accept them. So
Nope.
you're up against that right from the jump.
Right.
We have taken on some self-published authors before, and it's usually for a very specific reason. And in fact, I mean, I know we just said we don't, as a matter of course, but I am. My husband and I are working with a self-published cookbook at the moment, but um, the reason for that is because it was published by these two women who run a very successful local restaurant. And it's what they want from us is very specific, right? They wanted a beautiful press kit developed. They wanted my help getting all the local bookstores where I have relationships to carry the book. They want hyper local media attention, and hyper focused in like vegan and vegetarian outlets. So
Mm-hmm.
to me, it was a very well-defined thing, and they're
Hmm.
not expecting me to get them on the New York Times bestseller list. They
Yeah,
are not
that's different.
expecting a
That's different.
review at the New York Times book review. They're not expecting an NPR interview, right? Like
Right.
the expectations are well defined, and we went into it knowing that. So there are exceptions, you know.
yeah, you want alignment of expectations, for sure. Now, authors are notoriously insecure and needy for
Mm.
hand-holding. I would imagine you've had clients over the years. It's kind of like the
Oh,
phone
yes.
never stops ringing. They keep coming to me. I get, a lot of emails, where it's like, are things working out okay? Am I selling any books? What about this? What about that?
Yep.
I'm sure some clients aren't worth the brain damage. Talk a little bit about that, and maybe segue into what an ideal client, brings or is willing to do, and how they comport themselves in relationship to your firm.
I have found that a lot of first-time novelists and a lot of very famous novelists or celebrities are very insecure and they do need their hand held through the whole process. And Meg and I try and tell them in advance what our plans are and what
Yep.
we're going to do. And then authors that have been around the block a few times and they're working with a traditional publisher and they're just looking for supplemental help from us, that's fantastic. They know what to expect, they know how publishing works, and they know that checking in with us a couple times a day is not helpful.
Yeah.
They kind of sit back and let us do what we're doing, and that's outreach to the media on my end. And for Meg,
Yeah.
it's,
Same.
outreach to all the bookstagrammers and
Hmm. Hmm.
cover books online. But do you have anything to add to that, Meg? I mean, what would you say?
Yeah. I mean, I think a good piece of what we do is we do play therapist to these authors, a good
I
chunk
was
of
a
the
psych
time.
major, thank God.
Yeah. Um, and the way Tandem is structured is that, you can hire Gretchen separately or me separately or hire us together, which is our favorite when we get to do that.
Mhm.
But a big piece of my business is working. I have a few all year round retainer clients that I work for as basically like their personal marketing director. And I mean, the three of them are repeat best-selling authors who need more upkeep, in the down months, so to speak. Um, and I find with them in particular, there's a lot more overall career direction, advice, and not so much me guiding them, but me being a sounding board for them and that kind of thing. So yeah, I mean, I do think and even I mean, Gretchen and I just worked with a first time memoirist, right? And there was a lot of just coaxing her through the process. And this is what to expect. And no, that's not reasonable to expect that. Or,
Yeah.
things like that. So there definitely is a good bit of that
Yeah.
therapy
We're
going on.
constantly saying, stop saying Oprah.
Yeah.
It's not happening. It's
Yeah,
just not in the cards.
that's a very, very low percentage there. Um, What about timing? Let's say somebody, wow, I got an agent, and the agent turned around and I got a publishing house, and they're coming, they're excited about, they're going to come out in 12 months with the book. So at what point does somebody engage? If they're doing it to optimize the performance of the publicists, then how much lead time should that author give the publicist before the book? I'm assuming you would want to work with the author before the book actually is
Well before the book.
debuts.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
what's
From
the timing on that?
for traditional publicity, because I work with a lot of long lead magazines that have like a 4 or 5 month window, I usually like to get started about 5 or 6 months before the book comes out. As soon as the ARCs are available or the NetGalley link goes up, that's when I start my pitching. Meg has a little bit of a shorter lead time than I do because people tend to get very excited when she's pitching them and they want to jump the gun.
Yeah, and I mean, seeing the book all over Instagram 6 months before you can buy it is generally not that helpful.
Stupid.
So,
Yeah.
I mean, like the stuff I do as far as like getting a big splash on socials is definitely closer into pub. But we do like to come on board, like Gretchen said, like the sweet spot is like just as ARCs are available, just as the net galley, the digital galleys are available, that's when the real work begins. Um, and then
What
and then we stay on, we generally say these things do have a natural life cycle to them. 6 to 8 weeks beyond your pub date is probably a reasonable expectation for how long after the book comes out that we'll still
Yeah.
be
And
actively
that's
doing.
longer than a lot of other companies give. But, we
True.
might have somebody that was interested in coverage and they're still on the fence and we're kind of noodling them along. So, you know,
Yeah.
we oversee all those kind of outstanding leads before we sign off on a project. And, we're suckers too, because if an author emails us a couple months after publication with a question, we'll always get back to them. It's a collaborative effort. We went through this together. We're not going to be like, we are so sorry to report that
Sorry,
our
we're off the
contract
clock.
has ended. We'll go with it.
I feel, yeah. I mean, we always say like once we're on the team, we're on the team. And I mean, I have clients who I'm pitching right now, and there are certain podcasts that'll be like, please come back to me in 2026, and I will because I'm competitive, right? Like I, I want to get that booking.
You keep a good calendar, you keep a good
Yeah,
to-do list.
yeah.
What about the deliverables from Tandem Literary? So what can an author expect? And now, what you have to say about your firm, I assume applies to a lot of the book publicists out there.
Yeah.
Let me give you an example. If you invest money with Fidelity, you get at least a quarterly report, maybe a monthly report on how things are going. What's the reporting process for you two with clients?
Well, that's a good question, Mike, because we have to keep very thorough notes about who we've reached out to, when, how many times, because there are no concrete deliverables in publicity. It's like the saying, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make them drink. We can pound people over the head 10 times about a book, but at the end of the day, if they don't want to cover it, they're not going to cover it. But that's why we have to keep such meticulous notes, because we're working our butts off behind the scenes, but you just can't guarantee anything. And that
Hmm.
goes for the pre-pub reviews. It used to be a guarantee that an author would get a review in Publishers Weekly, Kirkus, Library Journal, book list. Now it's not. Now you have to follow up with them too. It's just an increase of books being put out with a shrinkage of coverage, and it's very competitive.
Yeah.
Is the business harder or easier today than 10 years
So much
ago?
harder, so much harder.
Help me
I
why.
used I used to be able to pitch if I had a big author. Elmore Leonard was one of my clients back in the day. If I would pitch him to for review coverage to the, Minneapolis Star Tribune, they would review him. Now, most of the papers in the country will only review local authors, with the exception being the New York Times, the Washington Post, USA Today, and the Wall Street Journal. But the Boston Globe won't review you if you're from LA. It's
Hmm.
just gotten that much harder. So that's where the strategy comes in. That's, where one print outlet goes bye-bye, another online outlet pops up that we have to figure out how to work with. So
Yeah. I
it's
mean,
definitely changed.
it has changed. And what we say to our clients is, basically publishing is like legalized is gambling, right? It is the whole business is a big gamble. Everyone's putting their money on something, hoping it hits big. And when you go with a company like ours, the work it lies in all of the incessant pitching and the reporting back, right? Like whether that bears fruit or not, we've still done the same amount of work. So, that's what you're paying for. You're paying for our commitment and our time and our expertise, and the hope that that bears fruit, right? If it doesn't, that does not preclude folks from, you know, sticking with their contracted terms with us. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
Um,
Hmm. Hmm.
but
Well,
as far as reporting, you asked a question about reporting. I mean, we tend to do kind of whatever our clients demand and want. And I have a client right now who his preference is a weekly call on a set day at a set time. And so I've been doing that. And that's not the norm for us, I would say. But it
No, not
works.
usually.
Yeah, it works for this guy, and it's been working for me because it sort of gives me a deadline by which to have something else to report back. And I wouldn't want to do that, ad infinitum out 6 months from now because there's only so much to say week to week. But
Yeah.
and then other clients are just like periodically let me know what's going on.
Yeah. Or as you hear good news, shoot me an email.
Right.
Right.
And the
Yeah.
house
Yeah.
is, part of our business model is we work very closely, hand in glove with the in-house teams.
In-house team. Yep.
And so we want them to know what we're working on. We want them to know what we've gotten and what we're working on securing so that we're all working towards the same goal. And we know because we were in their seats that they have to go to a weekly meeting and they have to report on how things are going. So if we can give them more ammo for their sales meetings, great.
Now, what about the author who's looking to hire a publicist, trying to identify a publicist somewhere, and you two just say, "Look, we're full up. You're not the right person for us to represent." But they say, "Well, how do I choose the right publicist?" What would you tell that person? What are the considerations?
If we're too busy to take a client on, I will usually then send a list of colleagues in the industry that I think might be a good fit for them. It's a very small, incestuous business. We know everybody. So, I have fellow colleagues who have their own PR marketing firms. Well, not really so much marketing, but that's really just Tandem Literary, but PR firms that will shoot me clients, or I will just give recommendations if I can't take something on. We all just kind of work together.
Yeah, and it's been I feel like it was a great, pleasant surprise to me when we started this company back in 2009, is how collegial the industry is. I mean, you would think maybe going in, or at least it was my fear that it would be a little cutthroat. And it's not that way at all. We're all in touch with one another. We refer clients back and forth. We touch base on how things are going. We share contacts, and lists and things like that with one another.
Yeah,
Um,
there's a Slack media base database devoted to publicists, and we all just share information like, did you hear Joe Blow just died at such and such? That stinks. Or did you see so and so is stepping down from this position? So we can all be in the know. It's super helpful and collaborative.
Gotcha. Well, now, if somebody says, "Look, I hired a publicist, working with them," how do I measure success with that publicist is successful for me? Now, obviously, you don't guarantee book sales. Is it really about the deliverables? Are they giving you are they contacting all the people in the different potential channels? Are they
Yep,
giving
that's
you
where
detailed
that's where our
reporting?
reporting comes in. I usually share with my authors where I'm pitching. So they have an idea of who I'm going out to, and they can, feel free to make any additions. If they have personal contacts, of course, I'll put them on there too. But that's why we have to keep such meticulous notes about, how many times we contacted the book review editors at the Washington Post or the New York Times. So they know that we are extending our best effort to get them coverage. But it is ultimately it's not up to us what gets covered.
Right. As you say, you deliver the goods, but
We do the
whether somebody
physical work. We
salutes,
we
you
make
can't.
everybody highly aware of the book that is coming out and urge them strongly to cover it.
Hmm.
But there are
you can't
only
make
so many
anyone cover it.
spots.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm sure they get pitched a lot. What genres are particularly hot right now? Are there certain genres that you get excited about because this category has a lot of lift? Maybe it's auto fiction, maybe it's self-help or what have you. Are there certain genres that you two would get excited about because they're more responsive than others?
Can I jump in first, Meg?
Sure.
Thrillers. I used to never read thrillers myself until COVID, and I found they were the only thing that really kept my attention. And as a result, I absolutely love working on them. There are so many outlets that cover mysteries and thrillers, and I love it. And I always get results when I have a thriller, even if it's a Lisa Unger or a Julie Clark bestsellers. From them to like first debut writers, I can always get something in
Yeah.
that media sphere.
Um, and I mean, I have a bit of a sweet spot for women's fiction and like book club fiction. Two of my longstanding clients are Mary Kay Andrews and Patty Callahan Henry. And, you know, um, Mary Kay writes what we endearingly call beach books, right? So she has a new one every summer and she makes the list pretty much every year for the past 2 decades. Um, and they are lighthearted and fun, and I know that readership very well. And Patty has, over the last, say, since maybe the last 5 or 10 years, made us shift from writing contemporary women's fiction to writing historical. Um, and I know her readership quite well too. And I have loads and loads of bookstagrammers and influencers out there who I know love that kind of thing. So for me, it's fun to work on that because I know I'll get a great response. You know, as far as what's hot and what's selling, I mean, I think just take a look at the bestseller list and you'll see like romantasy is pretty much
Mm,
the genre of the day. I mean, it's not, I don't read that, and they don't need any help getting promotion either, as far as I can tell, because they all sell like hotcakes. But that's definitely a trend in the industry, is that genre in particular. But as far as
yeah,
what we need
people
to
really
work
need
on,
that escapism.
yeah,
And then the person who's writing literary fiction is probably a hard sell, I would imagine, because it's not a genre. It's not necessarily a fast, easy read, and it doesn't necessarily have a happy ending or even an ending. So oftentimes it's open ended, so that you actually have something to talk about after you've read the book. So I would imagine. I mean, you tell me, check me on that. Is literary fiction a tough sell?
No, no, surprisingly. I'm working with Jane Hamilton now, who's was the author of the Book of Ruth and the Map of the World years ago. They were Oprah picks, and she was a huge deal. She's written will be her first book in 9 years. It comes out at the end of September, and people are really excited about it. They're
yeah,
excited to see what she's got next. Even debut, I find that a literary novel that's a debut will get some good coverage.
yeah, I agree.
It's not that hard. Um,
Interesting and
Especially if it's
encouraging.
a good book,
Yeah.
you
Especially
know?
if it's a good book. And I find, for it makes our work easier if there's some kind of hook, right? So,
Yep.
what are they writing about something specific? Is there a theme in there that we can hang a peg on there? That's, we can go for media coverage with a certain theme in mind. Does the character of breast cancer, is the character a dog breeder? Is like something like that, where you can get some off the book page interest or special interest area like podcasts and things like that.
Hmm.
So,
Hmm.
And you know what another thing is that I've been doing is encouraging my clients to write original essays around a theme that is tied in with their book, and then I'll try and get it placed in electric literature or book trib. I've got Condé Nast Traveler excited about something I just pitched them. It's a way to get print coverage without it having to be a review. And some authors love it, and some are like, if you make me write an essay, so help me God, I will kill you. And we know, okay, so we're not going to be pitching original essays from this client. We'll see what else we can do. But I
yeah,
have found that to be another great way of getting coverage.
yeah, and we try to make everyone is so busy and they get bombarded with pitches, right? So if we can make the job of an editor or producer easier by saying, here's a canned Q&A already done with the author, or here's a very detailed list of discussion topics, so that getting an interview secured for somebody is a lot easier. I mean, think about that. If someone pitched an author to you, Mike, you would want, and we said, here's 10 things you could ask them. I mean, your job is
Yeah,
half done,
it makes it a lot easier.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
and normally it does. Most of the podcasts I hear, they tend to just be focused on the latest book, and they're talking about the characters and all that. What I do tends to be more, you know, let's learn about you and all your influences and why when you started writing and so on. Hopefully differentiating a little bit. let
Yeah,
me
I love that. I love that too. And I love podcasts that are focused on craft as well, because it's another
exactly.
way to get attention for the author without, like, that way the host doesn't necessarily even have to have read the book. It's not a book report, right? It's not
Exactly.
yeah,
And I'm always interested in how they write, whether what the rhythm is, what the writing regimen is. That's always of great interest to me because I think it's one of those things that listeners can learn from. Well, that's an interesting technique, or that
Absolutely.
I should try doing that, or resonates with me, let's say.
I agree. I think most writers like talking about it too.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah, it's a lonely, I mean, it's isolation. I mean, most authors do write alone in a room, or maybe they need some a cacophony around them, so they go to a coffee house and they're writing, but it's still a solitary act. And I think the opportunity to talk, although I know many of them are introverts, which is why they write, but at the
Yeah.
same time, the opportunity to write, to talk about something that's truly their passion,
It,
that's a
it
real
just
opportunity.
Yeah, it's such a strange business. I mean, you're alone in a room most of the time, you and the keyboard. And then all of a sudden you reach that point where you have to turn that off and go out into the world and flip the switch completely and be the whole other side of you, right? Like
Yeah,
promote,
it
promote, talk, charm everybody. Yeah, so
Yeah. Uh-huh.
I think a lot of authors enjoy that part where they can actually go out there and talk about the book and hear what people thought of it and what they get out of it.
Yeah. And now a lot of interaction with social media where they can go back and forth with their audience. And even I've seen instances where they say, um, where do you think I should go with this? I'm kind of at a crossroads. I could go this direction or that. What do you think? Kind of crowdsourcing
yep.
the scaffolding for the story.
Definitely. There's a lot of that.
You know,
And
Helpful,
the readers love that too. They love to be able to
yeah, it's kind of
feel like they're
co-creation.
helping a story along, even if the author doesn't take one single word of advice. It's still very collaborative, and it makes readers endeared to that author
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
ultimately raises their followers. So it's a
Yeah.
win-win.
Now let's talk about costs. I'm going to throw some numbers at you that I just pulled off the internet, and it says that to begin with, rates vary widely. Independent publishers might charge 2,000 to 6,000 per month, but an established firm can cost 10,000 or more per campaign, which I guess that would be more than necessarily a month, but the 10,000 or more per campaign. Some offer flat fee packages or a la carte services. I mean, based on the Tandem Literary website, it looks to me that you guys offer a la carte services, but then you probably also you offer full packages. I mean,
Yep.
do those numbers sound accurate, or are they dated? Are those numbers in the ballpark?
Well, 10,000 a month is certainly not anything we've ever written down on paper to hand a client. Meg has some retainer clients where she gets paid monthly, but primarily, if it's just an author looking to do straight up publicity, I will just do a flat fee and
Hmm.
usually charge half at the beginning, half at the end.
Yeah,
And
that's generally how we structure. Like if
it-
you hire us to work on one book, it's, we figure out based on our conversations with you, what exactly you need, whether you need soup to nuts or you just want podcast outreach and you just want social media help. Like that's just one piece from Gretchen and one piece from me. Then we come and figure out what we think is a reasonable ask as far as the cost. But yeah, I mean, I feel like the numbers you threw out are in the ballpark. I mean, 10,000 for an overall campaign, that's definitely in the ballpark. 10,000 a month would be very high. I
yeah.
don't I don't know who's paying
Yeah, yeah, they were quoting a campaign in
a
this case.
campaign. Yeah.
Yeah. What about the fact that there's so many authors who really have, especially authors who decide, I'm going to go all in. I'm going to quit my day job and I'm going to write and I'm going to be poor. There's an awful, there's an awful lot of authors who just don't qualify. They just don't have the bank account for it. So on the one hand, I could see a person thinking about being a publicist and saying that's just it's a market that probably there's a paucity of people with money. Now, on the other hand, I've also seen people who, trust fund kids, trust fund
Mhm.
babies,
Mhm.
who, Jesus, I have the luxury of writing and I've got a monthly income regardless. And I can, I'm not successful yet with the books, but I can afford a publicist. I
Yep.
mean, what do you see out there just in terms of the viability of authors being able to actually afford publicists?
Well, most of them ask up front during our initial call if there's a window, and we usually give it to them. And they don't they don't usually say anything until we've completed the proposal. And then we send it over, and then they'll get back with something like, this is a little bit more than I had in mind. Um, is there anything we can do? And Meg and I are pretty accommodating. I think I mean, I don't mean to toot our own horn, but I think we're probably more accommodating than other PR firms because we work with the author to get to a place where we're both happy, where,
Yeah,
we're making enough money to make it worthwhile because it's hours of work, and they're happy because they're not breaking the bank to hire us.
Hmm.
right. And I think as far as authors affording it, I think the mentality these days is, if we're working with 99% traditionally published authors, right? So we're talking about authors who've gotten an advance. And I
Yep.
think that they're where their head is at, and I think where a lot of agents' heads are at who advise their author clients is reinvest some of that advance back into the book.
Yep.
And earmark a certain number of dollars for promotion, whether that's money they spend themselves on buying promotions with third party outlets, or whether it's hiring folks like us. I think it's super wise, and it's definitely the trend we're seeing is authors are investing back in their projects because they don't
Yep.
want it to die on the vine. They want to give it its all, give it everything they can. Since they spent all this time writing this book, you don't want to rely on promises made, and hope, fingers crossed, that the book gets the attention you want it to. Um, you know.
How did you two get in the business? Do you love to read? Do you love books? Is that what drew you into the business? And how did you find each other?
I grew up reading like a crazy lunatic and ended up being a nanny for a family in Manhattan, and the parents both worked in publishing. So when I graduated from Boston University in a year that I'm not going to name, they said, "Why don't you come and interview at Bantam Books?" I'm really good friends with the director of, it wasn't called human resources at the time. What was it? Personnel, just to age us all a little. And
Now
I
it's not
went,
called human resources anymore. I think they're like the talent team or the people team or
oh
something.
my God, seriously?
Yeah.
I did not know that. Oh my God. We've lived through three iterations of
Yeah.
personnel. So I went and interviewed and got a job within 2 weeks. And
Wow.
it wasn't what I was planning on doing. I was a psych major. I was going to become a child psychologist. And here we are, several years later, and I'm still doing the same thing. That's how I
Yeah.
got into it. Meg?
I was a total book nerd as a kid, and I was an English major in college, and graduated into a time where it was pretty hard to find a job, and it took me a full year after getting out of school. Um, but I landed a job. My first real job was in publishing, but it was in college textbook publishing. And I lasted 6 years there. And then I applied at Putnam, and I went into Putnam as like an ad promo manager, and that's when I broke into traditional, consumer, whatever you want to call it, um, publishing. And
Trade publishing.
yeah, and it's just been such a beautiful fit. And I think, all of Gretchen's experience has been on the publicity side, and all of mine since day one was on the marketing side. And we actually worked at the same company for nearly 10 years and sat
Yeah.
on the same floor and didn't really know each other. And I knew her
Meg was on the
name.
Putnam side, I was on the Viking side.
Yeah, and the way that the old Penguin building was structured was the bathroom was in the middle of the floor, and if you worked on one side of the floor, you entered the bathroom from one side, and if you worked on the other, you entered through the other, and we wouldn't see each other at the sinks because like
Never the two
you
shall
saw
meet,
your
right?
side of the floor and you didn't see the other side of the floor, and it was the craziest thing. I mean, of course I knew her name, I'd hear it, but then when Julie Grau and Cindy Spiegel were wooed away from Riverhead to start Spiegel and Grau, the original Spiegel and Grau iteration that was part of Doubleday, um, they hired Gretchen to be the head of publicity and me to be the head of marketing. And when they heard us both say that we didn't know each other, they almost fell on the floor. They were like, "What? You need to fix that right away." And we went out to lunch, and we have
At the
been,
year in, I
yep,
remember.
yes, and we have been the best of friends ever since. I mean, we worked almost 3 years at Spiegel and Grau before
Yep.
a massive wave of restructuring when the economy, shit the bed in
2008 was when
2008.
we exited stage left. Yep.
Yes, and so we went straight from there into starting our own business. And at first, we had no intention of becoming freelancers, or at least I didn't. Maybe Gretchen could have,
I
because there
didn't
was,
think about it at all.
I mean,
I
there's more
thought
of
it
a,
would be another in-house job.
yeah. And I was interviewing for in-house jobs, and I was sort of desperate to find one. My husband was a freelancer at the time, and I was like, I need to bring home the benefits. Like that was our family structure, right? Like he
Hmm.
worked from home, he was a freelancer. I went into the city every day, and I was the one who had the insurance and all that. And I remember I met with Bob Miller. He was working at Harper at the time. And he's like, "What do you want to do next?" And I was like, "I want to be your marketing director." And he's like, "I think you should start your own company." And I was like, "What?" I
Hmm.
said, he said, "You and Gretchen, you have a lot of goodwill out there for you right now." Everybody knows your names. Just start your own company. And he's like, "I would hire you." I said, What if I can't make enough money to buy benefits for my whole family and, pay 2 car payments and a mortgage?" He's like, "But what if you could? What if you could?" And
Yeah,
so
he was such a
yeah.
good dude for
He was
that,
like, I swear, I
Renfro.
feel like he was like our fairy godfather because I went out into the street. It was a frigid day in January on that crosstown block in New York City where, when the wind is just whipping. And
Yeah.
I called Gretchen from the street in the middle of the whipping, biting wind and said, "I think we should start our own company."
And I
What if
said,
we,
"What?"
yeah, and then it just took off from there. Like we just, we came up with ideas for names and we were like, this is what we're going to do. And we got gung ho about it. And
Was it Tandem Literary from the start?
From the
yes,
start.
from the start.
Yep.
Were you
It's
hesitant, Gretchen, when Meg called and she said we should start our
honestly,
own business? Did you
honestly, I
hesitate?
was so busy because in 2008, everybody and their brother was getting let go from their publishing company. And I had authors coming to me who were freaking out because they just spent the last 15 years of their lives writing their masterpiece, and they met their publicist, and their publicist was like fresh out of college with no contacts. So these authors were coming to me and hiring me. So I was essentially doing what we would later
Doing it
end up
already.
doing,
Yeah.
but without it being tandem literary. So it made
Gotcha.
sense. Once I wrapped my noggin around it, it made absolute sense. I
Yeah,
mean,
same. And I think, we had both taken on, there were small presses who saw all this talent being shed by the big houses, and they were hiring us on like short-term basis to like come in a couple days a week and do this and show us how to do that. And I had a couple gigs like that going where I was solvent, and then I was like, well, if we can keep this up and then bring on some new people, and then so we just, and yeah, I think we both had our doubts, but and I continued to interview while we were putting Tandem together. It was January when we first had the idea and May when we
mhm.
launched. So in those intervening months, I was called back for an interview at one of the big houses, and I was offered a position.
I forgot that, Meg.
Yeah. And I was like, oh my God, what am I going to do? And had that offer come in December, it would have been an immediate yes. There's no doubt in my mind. That's where I might still be working there today. But
And
when I
I'd be
told
at
her,
Solo Literary.
yeah, and I'd be hiring you. And when I told her no, I was like, I said, I can't believe I'm doing this, but if I don't follow this dream, I'll never forgive myself. And I feel like, and this is no insult to you or your imprint, but I feel like I would only be taking this job for the benefits, and you deserve better than that. And I'm gonna follow this dream and kick this company off and see if it if it takes off. And if it does, great. And if it doesn't, I might come back to you with my tail between my legs, but I never did, you know.
Well, how long did it take before the two of you said, we're good. We're going to make it. We've got momentum. We see the path. We're going to make this is going to work.
I think it
hard
was
to
right
say.
away, to be honest.
Oh, yeah.
I didn't want to be like that, but it was kind of right away, Mike, because as I said, all these authors were panicking and looking for outside help, and I was
Yeah.
there to give it to them, and so was Meg, and so
And it
we didn't
really helped. Yeah, we had established names for ourselves in the business, and um, I you know, there was a need in the market, and so yeah, I mean, not saying it's because we're so great this thing took off like a shot. I'm saying it was just a perfect confluence of things.
Yeah.
The
Yeah. That's
economy, what
always a
was happening
factor.
to publishing, the fact
Mhm.
that there we were with experience and recognizable names, so things came together really well, sort of right away. And it felt like, okay, this is, and of course, every year there's like, I took on too much and I'm drowning, or there's, how am I gonna make this month work?
Yeah.
And that happens all the time, but talk to anybody who runs their own business and they'll tell you the same thing. That's just the
Yep.
way it is.
Yeah. It's the nature of it. So what has been added to your business lately? You've now been doing this for 20 years or so. Any new wrinkles, any new services that or features that are going on with Tandem Literary?
Yeah, actually, as a result of the pandemic, several of my clients banded together and started a web show, which they had no idea what they were doing at the time. They just, with the world was shut down, they were nervous about their own book launches. They were nervous about their friends and other authors and debut authors out there, and they were nervous about independent booksellers who were shuttering. Um, so they started this thing and they called it Friends in Fiction. And they brought me on within the first few months to help them run it because it started to take off. And so what it is a weekly web show that airs on Facebook and YouTube, and a podcast that airs on all major podcast platforms. But they interview a different author every single week. Um, and we've built a real community around it. So on Facebook, we have nearly 300,000 members in our Facebook group now, which is insane. And there's an Instagram feed and there's a Substack newsletter, and it's just sort of become this little ecosystem. And so running that is like, we say it was like building a rocket ship while flying it to the moon. Like none of us really had any clue what we were doing at all, which made it
You wouldn't know to
fun.
watch the show.
Yeah. Everyone was tuning in because no one had anywhere to go. And then, once the world opened back up, the audience was still there. So that was really nice. And so we're adapting as we go still because, it used to be a live show every Wednesday night where all four of the hosts and a guest and I and our producer would be on there every single Wednesday night all year long. And we realized, after things opened up, that wasn't feasible. So we've adapted some. We do one live show a month, and the rest are pre-taped, like that kind of thing, and a lot more focus on our Substack and stuff like that. But running that, booking all the guests and doing all the promotion for that is definitely a new piece of the business that I'd never foresaw when we launched way back when.
Interesting. Interesting. Again, my guests have been book publicist Gretchen Koss and Meg Walker of Tandem Literary. The URL to Tandem Literary is in the episode notes. If you want to go to their site, you can learn a lot more about them and the services that they offer. Meg and Gretchen, thanks a million for coming on the program and enlightening us about the book publicist business.
Well,
Thanks
thanks
so much
for
for
having
having
us
us.
on, Mike. Appreciate it.